All right, so you're thinking about making a move to Metro Detroit, and you're probably wondering, like, what is it going to cost me to live in one of these cities here in Metro Detroit? Maybe a city like Ann Arbor or Birmingham or Royal Oak, which are three of the most popular cities to live right here in Metro Detroit. Well, if that's on your mind today, then you're in luck, because I'm going to be breaking down the cost of living in each of these cities. I know this, right? I live and breathe real estate in these areas every single day, but when you break down the numbers and put them side by side, it's really eye-opening. So depending on your vibe, depending on your lifestyle, and depending on all the things that may be important to you, from schools to parks to recreation, I'm not going to share just the data with you. I can put that on the screen and do that anyways. But I want to walk you through what life is like in addition to the cost of living in each of these cities. So make sure you stick around to the end, because we're going to be getting into the biggest cost that you need to pay attention to when looking at the cost of living between each of these cities. So let's kick things off with understanding what the vibe is in each of these cities. Now, when you look at Ann Arbor, the vibe there is really kind of college town meets young professional meets artistic culture. It's a little bit more university focused, but don't get me wrong, Ann Arbor is definitely a foodie town. So if you do like food, Ann Arbor is one place that you can go run wild. Just absolutely have a field day. I love seeing all the new restaurants. I just learned of one, the other day when I was talking to a client. Boom, boom, boom. Google Tex-Mex in Ann Arbor just to see if I missed something, and boom, there's a new restaurant. So they're popping up on the daily. And then moving over to the Birmingham area, the vibe in Birmingham, is really more kind of upscale shopping, upscale dining. The downtown area is pristine, kind of a lot of high-end stores. This is where you're going to find your designer stores. This is where you find the Lululemons. And somebody told me, go on a vacation and you want to know where some of the more upscale places or nicer places are, go look for the Lululemon stores on the map.
Who'd you invite? The ladies from Lululemon.
And next, let's check out the vibe in Royal Oak. Now, the one way I can describe Royal Oak is just active. Like, there is so much going on all the time. Okay, this is really a hot spot. A lot of young professionals like Royal Oak just for the vibrant, food scene there, the nightlife, and just so many things to do. So, if you're a young professional, like, Royal Oak is definitely a look. And I don't want to mislead you. It's not just about the young professionals in Royal Oak. There's tons of families, but it's always active, whether it's kids, young professionals, families going out and about. Like, there's always something going on in Royal Oak. Now you have a good idea of the vibe of each of these cities. Let's start taking a look at the cost. And the first one I want to take a look at is the utilities. This is your gas, electric. This is what we're going to use to heat the home, cool it down, and also turn the lights on, right? Pretty basic stuff. But when it comes to the cost, it's not going to vary from city to city, from like a electricity usage or the gas usage. Those costs are relatively the same. There's two providers: Consumers Energy and DTE Energy. That's going to be your gas or electric or both, depending on what city that you're in. But what is going to make a major difference is the age of the home and the condition of the home. I'm talking about the insulation and the age of the windows, maybe the age of the roof. If all of these things are super old and you got single pane windows on your home, I can assure you there's going to be some drafts. If you don't have well insulated attic, a lot of older homes in Ann Arbor have the original insulation in them. I can assure you, heat is going out like crazy. Cool air in the summertime is going out like crazy. So when it comes to looking at the utility cost, if you live in a very old home that's not updated, well insulated, your costs are going to be much greater than a more energy efficient home that is well insulated with new windows. And next up is auto insurance and health insurance. Now, these are really two costs that we cannot go without. Okay, nobody would give me a lease on a car or give me a loan on a car without having full coverage. Okay, in the state of Michigan, you can drop that if you own the car outright. If you don't have a lien on the car or anything like that, you can have no fault insurance, which is like the cheapest you can get. So you can get a lower premium. It's just not full coverage. Okay, so you kind of got to pick your battles there. I had that when I was very young. Like, I had a beater car and I was like, dude, I don't care if anybody smashes into this. I just need personal property and damaging someone else's property on my insurance, and I'm good. I just want the least amount of money possible for that. But today's day and age, I want the full coverage. I want that on my car, because if something happens, I don't want to have to come out of pocket to repair that. And they're like crazy expensive nowadays. Have you ever seen like trying to replace a quarter panel on a Tesla? But I digress. Now, when we take a look between Ann Arbor, Birmingham, and Royal Oak, we're not going to have that much of a fluctuation. What is going to fluctuate in the cost here is your driving record, right? Your health. Okay. If you have pre-existing conditions and you're getting on a new plan, like all that stuff gets taken into account. Okay. The one thing that does get taken into account from a geographical location perspective with auto insurance is where you live. Okay. And you look at the crime stats. The insurance company looks at the crime stats in each of those cities. Is auto theft high, breaking and entering in cars, high on crime stats? Like, they're looking at the stuff. And of course, if you added Detroit into the mix, Detroit has some of the highest auto insurance. Okay. Also, Ann Arbor, Birmingham, and Royal Oak are very low on that. So you can expect to pay kind of in the middle premiums. Okay. You're not going to be the lowest. So I would say you're going to be right in the middle, but an average premium for Michigan health insurance is going to run you right around $381 per person. Okay. So if you have a family of 4, right, you can expect to pay somewhere between $1,200 to $1,500 per month. Now, car insurance, on the other hand, the annual premium in the state of Michigan is $3,161 per vehicle. Now, if you got a good driving record and you're living in a low crime area where car insurance may not be as expensive, you can pay a little bit less than that. Now, I personally, okay, and I'm going to share this with you guys because I think it's important. Looking at this number, $3,161 for the state of Michigan, I don't even pay that. Okay, my premium per year for both of my vehicles is right around $2,300 per year. Okay, and that's for 2 vehicles. Okay, we got a Jeep and we got an Expedition. $2,300 a year. Okay, we're just north of Ann Arbor, so give you perspective on that. I would say that's probably more so for a lot of people. Now, I have a good driving record. So does my wife. Okay, but if you have a lot of tickets, you're going to end up paying more. It's just the reality of it. Don't speed. Don't do that stuff. All right, so moving on, we're going to be taking a look at the grocery cost and the cost of eating out in each of these cities. Now, when it comes to food, I don't know about you, but like, I am kind of a snob. I like good restaurants. I want to go to nice places. Like, I've just gotten to the point in my life where going to like a Ruby Tuesdays or Chili's literally cost me and my family like $100 to $125. And that's like a mediocre meal. So I would much rather go to a nice dining experience or a locally owned restaurant and just go pay the same. Like, it's literally the same cost. Okay. If we go to Chili's, here in Brighton, $100. If we go to Brighton Bar and Grill, I'm still paying $100. And I can assure you, Brighton Bar and Grill versus Chili's dining experience, unmatched. Brighton Bar and Grill wins every day of the week. Now, that's the same for a lot of the restaurants here, like in Ann Arbor, Birmingham, Royal Oak. You're going to have your more expensive options. You're going to have your kind of middle of the road, options. You have options in all 3 of these areas. So I just want to start there. And when it comes to groceries in each of these cities, you also have options. And what I mean by that is, if you're somebody that eats clean, where you're looking for organic produce, you want grass-fed, grass-finished beef, Whole Foods, Plum Market with some of the farmers markets, all of those options are available. Okay, so that's a choice. And when you look at the cost of groceries in Ann Arbor, for example, a lot of statistics rate it 9% higher than the U.S. average, which I've shopped in Florida. I've shopped in other states before. I wouldn't say it's like crazy in Ann Arbor versus Birmingham. I mean, Birmingham has Westbourne. There are expensive options. Okay, you can go to expensive grocery stores. What's that one out in California? The Erewhon. We don't have an Erewhon here, but there's some comparable grocery stores here in Michigan that are kind of on Erewhon prices. Like, we have one in Brighton called Simply Fresh. I go there and I literally tried to check out with an apple. It's organic apple by that, but I tried to check out with an apple, and I knew on Wednesdays they're half off produce. And that one apple was $3.50. I did not buy that apple. Okay, let me just say that. I did not buy that apple, but that was half off. So on a regular day, that apple would have cost $7. No, thank you. That's insane to me. But when it comes to groceries, like, everybody has a choice, right? We have Kroger, we have Meijer, we have Plum Market, we have Whole Foods, we got Trader Joe's, we got Aldi. All those locations exist in Birmingham, Ann Arbor, Royal Oak. So it just depends on how you eat and what's important to you. And everybody's always curious what the budget is for your groceries and dining out. And mine's going to be different than yours, and yours is going to be different than mine. But on average, we spend about $2,500 per month on groceries and eating out. Now, some months that's a little bit more because we may eat out a little bit more. Some months might be less because we're really doing a good job eating at home and trying to clean out the fridge and eat some of the leftovers that we had. But when I look at some of the national averages for the budgets, I either feel out of touch with it or it's just not reality. I mean, they say that for a family of four, the average cost of groceries should be around $220 per week. Now, if you're paying $220 per week for groceries, drop your grocery list in the comments below. I'd love to see what you're buying and what meals you're prepping and how you're doing that on a weekly basis, because I just can't get there. We drop $220 at Costco every single week. So that's not even including all the other groceries that we're buying. So if you got some like magic trick up your sleeve, like drop that in the comment below. All of this, and we have not even gotten to the property taxes and the cost of housing here in these three cities yet. So make sure you stick around because those are the two biggest that you're not going to want to miss. All right, so next up, we're taking a look at state income tax, and this has nothing to do with Ann Arbor versus Birmingham versus Royal Oak. The state income tax is for the whole entire state, okay? And you just need to know about it. If you are going to be budgeting and looking at the cost of living in any of these cities or any city around Michigan, you need to budget in 4.75% for your state income tax, okay? That's so if you're making $100,000 a year, you're going to be paying $4,750 per year in state income tax to the government. That's a common one most people overlook. All right, so next up, we're taking a look at the property taxes in each of these cities, and this is where it really starts getting good. You know, up until this point, you can kind of see that the cost of groceries, eating out, health insurance, auto insurance, utilities, not much fluctuation between these three cities, okay? And it's just the baseline of where we're at in Southeast Michigan. Not a lot of fluctuation in those. That's just the honest truth. But what does play a big role in the cost of living are your property taxes and your housing cost. So when we start breaking this down, I want to give you an example, okay? Throwing numbers at you doesn't really help. I've learned that. I've made videos where throwing a bunch of numbers and you're like, boom, I've seen the retention just go pew. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to drop it in the comments below. But I want to give you an example, and we're going to be taking a look at the millage rate, and I'm going to give you an example of what that's going to equate to in your actual property taxes in Ann Arbor, in Birmingham, and Royal Oak. Okay, so first up, Ann Arbor's millage rate is one of the highest of the three. Okay, there's really a couple other cities, in Southeast Michigan that are comparable. Grosse Point's being one of those. Those have a very high millage rate, but Ann Arbor is definitely up there as one of the most expensive for property taxes, and that's 51.77 millage rate. Okay, comparatively, Birmingham is a 38.65, and I'm going to show you how to use this in a second, okay? Royal Oak is a 38.37 millage rate. Now, what the city does with the millage rate is that's all of your taxes going in to cover fire, police, road infrastructure, anything else that's on your property tax bill that you're paying for as a resident of that city. Now, we're going to use a $500,000 home in each of these cities because that's pretty common. Okay, you can find a $500,000 home pretty easily in Ann Arbor, Birmingham, and Royal Oak. Now, how we calculate the taxable value is we're basically going to take half of that, which is the SEV. We're going to use a taxable value of $250,000, and we're going to multiply that by the millage rate and multiply that by 1,000. Okay, so for Ann Arbor, for this $500,000 home that you just purchased, your estimated taxes will be $12,943 per year. For Birmingham, estimated taxes will be $9,664 per year. And for Royal Oak, your estimated taxes will be $9,681,000 per year. Now, if you do have a specific home that you want to calculate the taxes for, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help you with that. Or I have a tool down in the description. It's a property tax estimator, and you can plug in the county, you plug in the actual school district, and then you can see exactly what your estimated tax will be. Now, it's not always perfect. What I see is The SEV is always on the higher end. It may be a little bit less than that. We've had a couple of examples of clients who are moving to the Grosse Pointe area where the SEV put them at like $45,000 a year for taxable value. And it wasn't going to be anywhere close to that. It was probably going to be, around like $25,000 because the neighborhoods have not gone up that much. So you have a cap tax, and there's a lot of nuances to it. But better yet, just reach out to me. I'll walk you through all the taxes and make sure you have an understanding. We always go through this with our clients to make sure before you put the offer in, you know what the estimated taxes are, because it can be a little bit deceiving. All right, and getting to one of the biggest costs of them all, which is the one you guys have probably been waiting for this whole entire video, and we are here, which is the housing cost. Now, housing cost is usually the biggest factor of cost in general. Okay, this is going to be your biggest expenditure on a monthly basis, which is our mortgage. So when we look at Birmingham, Ann Arbor, Royal Oak, going back to kind of the vibe in each of these cities, what does the city have to offer? How highly desirable is that city for a lot of families, for retirees, for young professionals? All of those things play a big role in why housing costs what it costs. That was a mouthful. Why housing costs what it costs in each of these cities. But it's true. When you look at the price, you're looking at school district, you're looking at location in Metro Detroit, you're looking at the amenities that are surrounding, how far is your commute to things, access to, gyms, and the list goes on, right? But it all comes back to your lifestyle and what you're wanting to do on a daily basis. Let's break down each of these cities. The average single family home is going to cost you $546,000 in Ann Arbor, and that is up 1.6% from this time last year. Now, Birmingham, that's going to cost you over $700,000, just slightly over $700,000, and that's up 12.4%. So you can see Birmingham's got this big jump. And what's happening in Birmingham right now is there's a lot of spec building going on. Now, Royal Oak, for a single family home, that's going to run you $350,000 per year. That's up 1.4% from the previous year. And now this is the most affordable out of all three cities. Okay. Royal Oak is definitely the most affordable out of all three of these cities from a housing cost perspective and a property tax perspective. Okay. And $350,000 may sound like a great budget here, but let me explain what you're going to find in Royal Oak for $350, because it's actually slightly a little bit higher. I'm going to tell you the data, but I'm also going to tell you reality of the housing market. Now, $350,000 will get you a cute little bungalow, maybe 2 to 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. Not a lot of updates, in that. But if you're looking for something with updates, updated kitchen, updated bathrooms, a better budget would be somewhere around $450,000 to $500,000 to get that same home with all those updates, maybe a little bit more square footage. Okay, square footage is also a thing that really compresses price because there's a lot of small homes in Royal Oak, a lot of ranches, a lot of bungalows. And what's happening in Royal Oak is the same thing that's happening in Birmingham. A lot of these small homes are getting bought, knocked down, and then they're building, $900,000 new builds or $1 million new builds. That's kind of the entry level. If you're finding a new build in Royal Oak, it's probably going to be starting right at $1 million. So when it comes to the housing market in each of these cities, it is super competitive. Having somebody like myself represent you in making sure that you understand the market, you understand what it's going to take to get an accepted offer and actually fight tooth and nail to get that home. Okay, that's what me and my team do. That's what we do on a daily basis. So if you need any help in that regard, reach out. All my contact information is down below. We'd love to work with you. But again, this all goes back to what is best for you and what lifestyle you're trying to accomplish. If you're a young professional or you like an active downtown area, Royal Oak is probably a good option for you. If you're somebody that likes more upscale dining, you want to be close to shopping, and you want a walkable city, and you want some nice real estate, Birmingham might be a good option for you. And if you're somebody that enjoys the art scene and maybe a foodie like me, well, Ann Arbor might be a good spot for you as well. But when it comes down to the numbers and you stack up Ann Arbor, Birmingham, and Royal Oak and look at the total cost of living and the amenities that are around, Royal Oak is definitely the clear winner. Okay? It has the price point, it has low property taxes, and all the other categories that we went through: auto insurance, health insurance, utilities, right? Groceries, dining out, all those things are really on par with the rest of the cities, but it comes back to the property taxes and the housing and what you can afford, and Royal Oak definitely takes the cake. So if you're ready to find the perfect spot here in Metro Detroit, make sure you reach out. All my contact information is down below. And if this video was helpful for you, make sure you subscribe, tap that little bell so you're the first to learn every time I come out with a new video, which is every single week. And if you want to learn more about living here in Michigan, go check out these other videos, and I will see you on the next one.